Hey, how's everyone doing? Glad you could be with me here this Sunday's night. Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all of you daddy-os out there. Gotta raise them up right. Thank you for doing what you're doing, daddies. Paul Bar, how you doing? Niels World, how you doing? James Richter, how you doing? Rusty, how you doing? Harold B. And Truth Monster, yes, how are you all doing? Today, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at if it's possible to have inflation during a recession, and what sparked my interest with this was something that Judy Shelton had put out in a tweet. So we'll take a look at that as the main topic, mainly discussion. We're just gonna kind of discuss it. Before that, we'll go ahead and take a look at the Warren Black interview, which I didn't get a chance to do last week. We'll go ahead and take a look at the Mark Valek interview. Couple things Gerald Celente said, and then we'll get into the main topic. So I'll be with you guys shortly. I appreciate you being here. Yukon Cornelius, always love that name. And Seymour Rivers, how you doing? Our ebook champion. I wish you could get the ebooks again, but for some reason Amazon is not letting us gift it. So we'll work on that. See what we can do. So I'll be with you guys shortly, and we'll see how this goes. Hopefully, we'll have a better time than last week with all the technical glitches. So I'll be with you guys shortly. Thanks again for being here. Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. Glad to have you here. Aloha to one and all. As always, you can find us on social media. Silverbullion.com.sg is where you can find us on the web. This is our website where yes, we do sell silver and gold, but more than that, we do specialize in wealth protection. And as I always say, if you do know what's going on out there, send us an email, contact us. Let's talk. Sales at silverbullion.com.sg, and let's see what we can do or what we have that can help you. Silver Bullion SG is where you can find us on Facebook. Silver Bullion PL is where you can find us on Twitter. Silver Bullion SG is our Instagram account. Audio only versions, bit.ly SBTV iTunes or SBTV Spotify, and Crisis Tracker. If you have that Crisis Tracker app on your phone or your desktop, go ahead and search one word Crisis Tracker. One word Crisis Tracker. And this is where Vincent and I will go ahead and we do look at different things, whether they're financial, economical things to do with gold and silver. We'll go ahead and post them up. We try to do it daily, but again, the main point is we're trying to sift through the weeds and get everything as concise as possible. I know there's a lot of info out there, some good, some not good. We'll try our best to get you the good stuff. So those are the places you can find us on social media. Our upcoming guest, a little bit different, but very interesting nonetheless. Our upcoming guest is going to be Chris Galicio. He's the executive producer of Money Game, and he's an experienced institutional portfolio manager with a long track record of success in managing large cap growth portfolios. He knows his thing. He's an expert in capital markets, again, portfolio management, mutual funds, hedge funds, and investments. He holds an MBA focused in finance from the University of Illinois at Urbana Champaign. And Chris has taken those skills now into the movie making genre to get the word out about the money game being played. And it definitely is a money game. So please do subscribe, hit that bell to be notified, and we'll let you know when that video comes out. Definitely a money game, as a lot of you folks already know. And we'll even touch on that in some of this live stream. So, having said that, let's move on over to our ebook thank you giveaway, or in this case, it's going to be a $10 Amazon gift card for our winners. And the question is going to come from the Warren Black interview. So, hope you had a chance to go ahead and watch that interview. House rules: be one of the first five to answer correctly in this live stream before the timer runs out. Winners in the US, you're going to be given a link to download the gift card Non-US winners, well, like me, I guess, we can ask Amazon to exchange the gift card if it's not usable in your country. And you're going to have to provide us an email during this live stream and preferably no other messages in that email. Then we'll go ahead and send out the gift cards after the live stream. So hang on tight. So again, the question comes from the Warren Black interview. Okay, so I hope you had a chance to watch it. Here we go. You're going to have about a minute and 30 seconds. The question is, according to Warren Black, if you are not blank, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. According to Warren Black, if you are not blank, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. So I hope you had a chance to watch that interview. Let me go ahead and look at the comments real quick. Tim Silva, how you doing from the Philippines? Kumusta? Okay, so let me run through here. But again, just give it a shot. Give it a shot. According to Warren Black, you are not. If you are not blank, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. What is it? What is it, Lieutenant Colonel Rumley? How are you doing? Go ahead and take a shot. Sepa J coming in with solvent. Okay. Okay, let's see what else is out there. Choo Choo, prepared. Seymour Rivers, prepared. James Richter, stacking. Yukon Cornelius, solvent. Hubar, prepared. Let's see. Neil's World, diversified. JS, diversified. Harold B, prepared, preparing. Bill Wood. I think that one, maybe you might be in a little bit of trouble, but hey, it's we're all equal opportunity here. Prepared. Paul Wealthy 495 solvent. A lot of guys said solvent. Not quite the answer we were looking for. Truth Monster, fat. Yeah, that's true. Definitely true. Patrick Bayman woke. Okay, the answer was, I'll wait a little bit more. Sovereign. Okay, the answer was sovereign. If you're not sovereign, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Yes, Bill Wood. That was a funny one there. So let's go back and revisit what Warren Black had to say, and if he did indeed say sovereign.
I think Thomas Jefferson was the guy who once said that once people start giving up their power for temporary safety, they eventually lose all safety, because eventually governments will just print more money, they will do whatever they have to do to keep their electorates happy, and eventually one day people will wake up and realize they don't have any freedoms and that governments control their money. It's not going to end well. I think in one form or another, if you're not sovereign, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. I see the world will just simply be, you'll either be sovereign or you'll be a slave. It'll be that simple, a sovereign, or you'll be in the government system. So in summary, I see the Great Reset as being some kind of move to digital currency, some kind of flushing out of possibly debt for people in exchange for giving up certain liberties and freedoms and being part of a system. So either way, you just have to have a sovereign wealth portfolio, an income stream that's not dependent on a licensed government regulated system, or where you're dependent upon government's good grace.
All right, so the word was indeed sovereign. If you are not sovereign, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. You will either be a sovereign or a slave. That was pretty interesting what he had to say. You're either going to be a sovereign or a slave. The Great Reset will in part be a move to a digital currency. I think we'll all agree with that. A flushing of debt for people in exchange for liberties and freedoms. Okay, so Warren Black kind of laying it out on the line there. Flushing of debt for people in exchange for liberties and freedoms. I'd like to know your thoughts on those, because I've said this before. Uh, freedom freedom is defined differently all over the world. So when it comes to things like liberties and freedoms, I'm curious to know what your thought is behind this. I'm old school. I probably have the same definition of freedoms and liberties as you do, but he does say the Great Reset will in part be a move to a digital currency and the flushing of debt for people in exchange for liberties and freedoms. Are we all going to get in a bunch of trouble where the government is going to bail us out? Is perhaps that's what he's saying? What are your thoughts here? I'll go ahead and look through the comments and I'll play this next clip from Warren Black.
The government have got away with shutting the whole world down for basically a relatively bad flu. They've got away with muzzling up their citizens without a lot of pushback, and they've got away with insane regulations saying, like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can stand up in a cafe but you can't sit down, you can do this, you have to wear a mask, You've got to go in this way. You can go to a bottle shop, but you can't go to a cafe. And they've done the most absurd regulations, shut people down, taken people's livelihoods, quarantined people at airports, and they've got away with it. I just don't see governments waking up and going, oh, sorry, everyone, we feel really bad for being so nasty to you. Please forgive us. We'll go back to normal tomorrow. I think they'll be going, oh my God, hey, what are we going to do next? And now we're talking about a chimpanzee pox or whatever it is, and then goodness knows what's planned next. So, yeah, I cannot emphasize strongly enough. It's a time to be taking radical action. Do the hard things.
All right. Governments have gotten away with too much. I'll say yes to that. I agree with that. I think we've kind of given away quite a bit. And will they reach for more? I'll say yes as well. I mean, the way governments work, we all kind of know this, right? I mean, they will reach, see what they can get, will give it away. And then governments are smart enough to say, hey, okay, if we want more, let's take one step back in order to take two steps forward. So they know, hey, either dangle a new type of bait in front of people or whatever it is, but they're going to relax some things, get you relaxed, and then go ahead and take a couple steps forward with their agenda. And this is always the way it's worked. It's worked this way in history, and it's going to continue to work this way. So will government now reach and take more? I would say, yeah, surely. Will government give back what they took? I would say no. This is something that if you want something, you're going to have to hang on to it. I don't think they will give back whatever has been taken. Do the hard things. And some of the hard things are just even really trying to explain gold and silver to people. We try our best to explain it. You try your best to explain it. When I say we, I mean all of us. And sometimes the way the world is today, there's money to be made all over the place. So they don't necessarily see the need for some type of a safe haven asset, but the guys who know and guys who are really watching things, they absolutely do see the need for safe haven assets. So do the hard things. It's not the most glamorous thing to do, but it's probably one of the best things to do out there. So governments, hey, we put them in, they're accountable to us. Make sure that they always stay accountable. Let me take a look at some of those comments here. Yeah, let's see. Patrick Bateman, I think that's a pretty good comment there. Agreed, sovereign or slavery. That's a pretty good comment there. All right, let me move forward. One more clip from Warren Black.
A very, very good trader once told me this. He said, you'd never know for sure what's exactly going to happen. He goes, you can guess and get a pretty good idea, but he said it's important to always hedge your trades. And this guy has been making millions for years. So the more you diversify, you're covering risks. And it means that even if your own country goes completely AWOL, if you've got some money in Singapore, you've got a nest egg. The wise investor and the wise sovereign businessman or woman, an investor, might have some money in Australia, they might have some money in Singapore, they might be diversified in Europe, they might have something in Thailand even, they might even have a residency there. So if something goes wrong somewhere, they're overall going to do okay somewhere else because cash might suddenly collapse and they lose all their cash, but then gold goes through the roof. Or gold might be seized, but then cryptos go through the roof. So the secret to me is just being well diversified, having good mentoring and good guidance.
All right, Warren Black laying it out there again. You never know what is going to happen. Absolutely. You just never know. Hedge, hedge. Diversifying covers risks. Absolutely. If something goes wrong in one place, you might do well in another. The secret is being well diversified. And that is absolutely true. When I first came to Singapore, I mean, coming from the US, I didn't really understand why, what's all this offshore business, people putting things in this jurisdiction, that jurisdiction. And when I got here, I then understood why. I then understood why. And a lot of these people, they are just trying to do what you and I are doing, which is to protect whatever we have, our family, our finances, the things that we've worked for. And so when you diversify not only in your assets, your investments, but also your location, you give yourself more of a hedge. Diversifying covers risks. So what are your thoughts? I want to see what's out there. You trips for free. Yeah, Silver Eagles high premium still, and a lot of it comes from the mint itself. So And for some reason, the U.S. Mint seems to be the mint that has the highest premiums on their coins. So a lot of times, it's not necessarily the dealers; it's coming straight from the mint itself. Let me see what else is out here. Yes, Rod, we'll throw that in there. Maybe we need a good laugh this morning. I tested positive for monkeypox. Thankfully, I'm asymptomatic. All right, there you go. Um, okay, so and besides Warren Black, we also had Mark Valek from incrementum.li. And he also gave us some really great sound advice and ways to think and ways to see things. And as some of you know, Mark Valek, he is the co-author of the In Gold Trust Report. The most recent one came out back in May 24th of this year. It is a free download, so go ahead and make your way over to the website incrementum.li and go ahead and download the In Gold We Trust report. It is free, so go ahead and get it. So, a few things Mark Valek said. Let me play one clip here.
History always repeats itself. I mean, this is the crazy thing about it. People always try to obtain the monetary monopoly, and once they realize what kind of power lies in debasing the money and inflating, they never can stop. And the insidious thing, I think, also about the process that unfortunately, when you start the process, it seems to be a positive for everybody. So really nobody gets hurt in the beginning, it seems so. Actually, the economy gets stimulated even though it's an artificial boost and it's not sustainable. But at first, everybody's happy about it, kind of. Nobody complains. And at the end of the day, it oftentimes ends up that even the people who suffer the most of this whole system are calling the loudest for even more of the drugs.
All right. History repeats. Well, it doesn't repeat, it certainly at least rhymes. There is power in debasing a currency. Interesting statement there. No one gets hurt in the beginning. Economy might get a boost, and the ones who suffer the most, they call out for more. And he likened them to drug addicts, I guess. I mean, a lot of people have, so no harm there. The ones who suffer the most call out for more. And we saw this where the Fed, they were giving out stimulus, and the stimulus helped people. I mean, a lot of us were in times where we did need help, but I'm on the record for saying this. Once you put that punch bowl in front of Main Street, it's going to be very difficult to take it away from Main Street. And why did I say that? Well, they put the punch bowl out for Wall Street and they could never pull it back in. So what would they expect with Main Street? It's going to be probably even worse. But history repeats. There is power in debasing a currency. We know this all through the Roman Empire. What they did, they debased to hang on to power, hang on to their empire, and eventually they lost it all. So this is something that you really got to watch and be careful with. A couple comments I want to take a look at here. 2001. Most people, most working people don't have the money to diversify. The rich who don't diverse, or the rich who don't deserve to fail. I mean, I get it. I get it where you're coming from. Um, there are things you can still do, though. I mean, you can get the silver that you can, get the gold that you can. There are other things you can do as well. Better yourself is probably the most important thing you can do to diversify in almost every way. Uh, have a skill, have a craft. Maybe just be a positive guy. There's going to be a lot of negative things coming down the road, and people will be looking for positive people. So there are things you can do. It's not always about money. It really isn't always about money. There are things you can do. For the rich, though, I mean, well, let's just say for all of us, we do need to diversify. You need to protect what you have worked so hard for, because really, with the things that are happening now, the inflation looks like the coming on of the inflation with the Fed coin, central bank digital currencies, a lot of uncertainties out there. You're going to need something that can store the value of what you worked for, store the value of your wealth. There are things we can all do, come out ahead. Let me look at a few other comments here. Um, Absolutely, a garden is diversification. Absolutely. Um, okay. All right. Let me move on to another clip from Mark Valek.
We think the most important reason why gold disappointed in 2021 was the narrative that this inflation will be transitory. And we hear this narrative day in and day out by central bankers from all over the globe, basically, but also economists and most strategists adhered to this kind of narratives. And so I think financial investors, who at the end of the day still are, in our view, the marginal buyer or seller of gold, bought this narrative and they never started to worry a lot about inflation, or at least about the possibility that it could be longer than anticipated, or even more severe. They actually had a rude awakening in 2022. I think that's beginning of this year. That was the point when they slowly started to reconsider this narrative. But still, I mean, the Fed coming to this year, I think, did a good job to again keeping this narrative alive by obviously starting to hike interest rates and talking about reducing the balance sheet. So I think that's probably the reason why gold hasn't done more. The narrative still is prevailing. The inflation will go away pretty soon. And that sums up our view what has happened on the gold market.
All right, another set of interesting points there. Gold disappointed in 2021 in part to the narrative of transitory inflation. That is absolutely true. We kept hearing it's a transitory situation. It's going to come and go. It's going to come and go. It's going to come and go. So people never really took a positions of hedging. They never took up positions of trying to make sure that they have that inflation hedge, that safety net. They didn't really do it. Economists adhere to narratives. Yeah, an economist. I think I heard one guy say some kind of a joke where there are people who tell you things after it's already happened. Financial planners bought and sold the narrative. Absolutely. I mean, we can just think back to that time, and we were all told, the markets, invest in the markets. The Fed was backstopping the markets, and it was just creating a whole lot of moral hazard. And I think we'd all more or less agree with that. And the Fed did a good job to keep the narrative alive. When Mark said that, um, I I wasn't sure to kind of laugh or really really take that serious, but I guess it's kind of both. I mean, the Fed absolutely did a good job keeping that narrative alive. They were there every week, talking about transitory, transitory, and again the news networks transitory, transitory, and well, obviously it wasn't. It wasn't, and I think we didn't, well, not we. I know you and I did, but a lot of people didn't really see it coming or have the time to really shore up things and do what they need to do. So that was Mark Valek. Let me check if I have another clip here from him or not. If not, we'll move on to Gerald Celente's Trends Journal.
The monetary system as it is, it's not sustainable. We see exponential growth in debt, and this is not a sustainable situation. And what basically, historically at least, did trigger a loss of confidence into a prevailing currency system nationally but also internationally is high inflation. So we are going there. I mean, it is quite high, I think, also in the West for the first time since decades. And the question is going to be how high will it get, or how long will it stay high? Because the longer it stays significantly elevated, that will erode the confidence in these currencies, as I said, nationally, but also internationally. And the higher the inflation gets, the higher the need for a new kind of monetary system at the end of the day, or monetary architecture at the end of the day on an international level will get.
Okay, Mark Valek, the monetary system as is not sustainable. Absolutely. I think we'd all agree there. International inflation, guys are seeing it all over the world. How high will it get? How long will it stay high? That's another issue there. A loss of confidence, a new monetary system. And I think this is exactly what's going to happen, where there's going to be a loss of confidence in the money. I think we're already seeing this with countries that are looking to de-dollarize, not buying as much US debt as they once did. There's a loss of confidence with that. And in that, we are seeing a new monetary system really starting to be talked about more and more, which obviously means it's more or less here. It's just a matter of adoption now. It's more or less here. I mean, Just take a look, with what's going on with Russia, China, other countries are going to fall in line because they want to have confidence in the money. They want to have trust in the money. They want to have trust in trade. To get trust in trade, you have to trust whatever it is you're trading with, whatever currency, whatever money. So these things, they are going to come up more and more, absolutely. So with that, I want to take a look at a comment here, and in fact, I'm going to throw this comment to my colleague Vincent, who is hopefully on the side here. Let me look for where it went. I think the question was, how high do you think the I think it was the bond rates? How high do you think the bond yields will go? Let me look and find that question here. Um, yeah, okay. This is coming from Matt Bittner. How high do you think the 10-year treasury goes before things implode? Vincent, what do you think? I know I just kind of made you scramble and put down your cup of coffee there, but what do you think? How high do you think interest rates are, or how high do you think the 10-year treasury goes before things implode? I mean, we kind of seen it hit 3 and it kind of freaked out a little bit. Um, I think definitely for myself, I think 5 is the end of the road if it can even get there. I think that's really the end of the road. Um, but I'm not sure it'll even get there. We'll see. Vincent, what do you think? I'm going to be looking for your answer out there. So having said all this, let's move over to Gerald Celente's Trends Journal, his weekly message, and I think I'll just do one where Yellen downplays the recession. So Gerald's weekly message: while politicians in the U.S. work to pass new gun control legislation after the Uvalde, Texas school shooting, condolences out there. The same warhawks in Congress keep approving billions of dollars of weapons of death for Ukraine. And with each week, these weapons get heavier, more sophisticated, and more deadly. And nowhere in the prostitute media is it mentioned how the very leaders calling for gun control are the same ones promoting mass murderous wars and never speaking out for peace, peace on earth. It was President Joe Biden who never saw a war he didn't like, except when he was a draft dodger during the Vietnam War, and once bragged that he was the first senator to call for airstrikes in Bosnia. And Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, laughed off the death of Gaddafi. We came, we saw, he died. And Obama was quoted in the book Double Down that he is really good at killing people, and the list goes on. Beyond the military wars, they launched the pandemic. They started in 2020, imposing draconian lockdown mandates and restrictions that have sucked the joy out of life while destroying the lives and livelihoods of countless millions. And I have said our leaders are mentally deranged, and their constant words of hate and division stir the anger and loathing that is so prevalent in society. And Gerald rounds up with saying the street expects the Federal Reserve to act aggressively. This came out last week, remember, by raising the rates to 0.75% to get a handle on rising inflation. Our loyal readers understand that we have warned about the inflation dangers for over a year while the Fed played it down. How could we be right and the Fed be wrong? And how come most economists quoted by the business media got it wrong? Why? Most business journalists in corporate media just swallow what is fed to them, and most writers are glorified interns without the real world experience to know the difference. So there you go. That was Gerald's weekly message. And moving on, I'll just play this one. I'll just go through this one article. Janet Yellen downplays recession, and there's nothing to suggest a recession is in the works, she says. Nothing in the works for the U.S. economy, says Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. And she said this in an interview with the New York Times about a week and a half ago. Of course, there's a recession risk, she added, but is it likely? I don't think so. Yellen tried to buffer increasing pessimism about the economy's future amid a 40-year record inflation, rising interest rates, a sagging global economy, and uncertainties hovering over the Ukraine war and Western sanctions against Russia. I believe there is a path through this that entails a soft landing, is what Yellen said. All right, so let me end it there. You know what is interesting is that all our guests and past guests see trying times ahead, to say the least. So, in looking ahead, we have to look back at the past and present to understand why we all do what we do, and that is being understanding the need to accumulate gold and silver. And again, the things that Yellen says, she says she's never expected another event, I guess, in her lifetime. Now she's saying she doesn't. The other week she said she misunderstood inflation, and now this time around she's saying she doesn't think there's going to be a recession. So she's got a good track record of going the opposite. Whatever she says is not going to happen, it's going to happen. So make sure you listen carefully to what she says, as much as it might ping your ear a bit, but listen to what she says and consider understanding the need to do the opposite things of what you're being told. Contrarian, that's what being a contrarian is all about, right? So after all these things, let's move on to our website, silverbullion.com.sg. Let's take a look at the gold and silver price and what's going out here in Asia in the morning. And let's see, two-factor authentication. Yeah, let me get back to the homepage here. I mean the beginning of it. So right now we have a promo going on for gold kangaroos and silver Britannias. Let me take a quick look at this right here. 2022 silver Britannias 1 ounce gold coins. You're looking at $25.71 USD per coin in the shop. If you are in Singapore, come on down. 1,500 coins in the shop ready for you to grab. If you're looking to store in the vault, okay, for our international guys or even guys here locally in Singapore, if you're looking to store in the vault, you got some 43,500 coins ready for you to buy and own. If you choose to keep them in storage, it's in your name, you own it. And along with the 2022s, we also have 2020s, same price, 25.71. Oh, out of stock. Out of stock. All right, it's okay. There's still 1,000 of them left that you can put in storage. So again, I think these are two pretty good deals here, considering the premiums for coins. 25.71 USD for 2022 silver Britannias and 2020 silver Britannias. Go ahead and pick them up locally in Singapore, or go ahead and, if you have an account with us, go ahead and accumulate more in your storage holdings. If not, you can also sign up for a storage account with us and get some of these things going. And the gold kangaroos, 1879.81 USD per coin, which is, that's a good price actually. I'm sorry, that's a good that's a good price there. But these we got to get them in still. They are there. We just got to bring them in, so you can go ahead and lock in the price now. Locally, limited to 6 coins, and for the vault, you can go ahead and pre-order if you are going to store with us in the vault. So I think these are two outstanding deals. I didn't realize the gold coin was that low, 1879. Low meaning the premium next to spot. So that's pretty good. Okay, so let's see what else is out there. Um, let me hang on. It's got a few messages here. Let me go down a bit, and what I want to do is take a look at the Sorry about that, guys. Let me go back to the home page. Uh, okay, hang on. Sorry, I just had a bunch of messages come in. So again, silver at 21.70, hanging in there. It's just down some 4 cents at in this morning in Asia. Gold 18.40, up some 68 cents. So both relatively unchanged here. And again, looking at that gold coin at, what was it, 1879, is just somewhat $39 above spot. That's a good deal. Okay, I'm going to have to go down to the store later. So again, silver slightly down a little, gold relatively flat, both relatively about the same. Investor kit. If you haven't already downloaded this is free. It's a Silver Bullion Investor Kit. Just go ahead and click on it, and you'll be able to either see the PDF on our website, or you can go ahead and download the PDF. And so, looking at those coins and the good deals out there, if you do want to sign up for a storage account, hang on, let me go back here. If you do want to sign up for a storage account, you can go ahead and select your items, say like these LBMA bars, and then you can go ahead and sign up for an account if you'd like to store it in the vault. Again, there are 6 different types of account: personal, joint, trust, joint account with a minor, business account, and then you have your retirement account, your IRA account. I understand a lot of 401ks have been taking a hit lately. It may be good to consider precious metals 401k. And as an example, personal account, really you just need basic information, your name, filling out an application, having some form of an ID, passport preferably, but some form of an ID. And as I always ask for your references, if you could come down to YouTube, SBTV, this will help us out quite a bit. But again, if you like those prices, and if you like the other items, especially the 1,000 ounce LBMA bars, go ahead and sign up for an account there. So moving over to Twitter, I want to take a look at see what's going to happen, or what's happening here on Twitter. Sorry about that. This kind of I wouldn't say shocked me, but you kind of understood it may happen, but you hope that it wouldn't happen. There's a bank protest going on in China. I think a bank, some accounts have been frozen for a couple months already. And so what happened was they were going to have a protest, and so they need to travel, whether it's by train or whatever it is. And what happened was their app, because the pandemic, right? You have this app where if you are, if you're jabbed, you're green, you can move about. If you're not jabbed, you're red on the app, meaning you can't exactly, you don't have as much freedom to move about. So what happened was these people were going to protest, and then their app turned red, so they couldn't board planes, they couldn't board the buses. So it's just kind of a thing that happened overnight. It was green one day, they could go, they bought their tickets to go, they were ready to go, and the next day it turned red and they couldn't go anywhere. So I mean, it is a possibility. Obviously, these things can happen. For what reasons? You can decide what reasons for yourself. But this is one thing I had hoped that we would not see. Okay, this one here. One of them is writing sound. This is Ron Paul on the left. This is President Joe Biden on the right. One of them is writing sound. He likes gold and silver and knows sound money. The other likes fiat, wobbles and crashed, and he's going to have to try to fix his bike by building back better, or something like that, they say. Unfortunately, well, I hope his knees heal up there. And this was something that Jerome Powell said, that I think, when you take a look at it and break it down, he's talking in code again, but he is telling you what's going to happen. So let me come to the beginning. I'll go ahead and play this here for us.
Looking forward, rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. Most major economies already have, or are in the process of developing, instant 24/7 payments. Our own FedNow service will be coming online in 2023. And in light of the tremendous growth in crypto assets and stablecoins, we are examining whether a U.S. central bank digital currency would improve upon what is an already safe and efficient domestic payment system. As our white paper on this topic notes, a U.S. CBDC could also potentially help maintain the dollar's international standing. Looking forward.
All right, so this was a pretty interesting here. I mean, he's kind of telling us, hey, dollar is there's going to be changes in the dollar. There's going to be changes in the world reserve currency, and it's moving quickly. Is what he said. It's moving pretty quick. So in that, he's talking about the Fed coin, which is, I believe, that's going to be coming next year. And then it looks like there's another layer on top of the Fed coin, a central bank digital currency. So I mean, you got to kind of wonder, why are there two things now coming out: the Fed coin, which is the first layer, looks to come out next year, and then the central bank digital currency, which he says it's going to help maintain or keep the dollar useful in so many words. So, I mean, if any of you guys can piece together what he said, why the Fed coin and then why a central bank digital currency? If any of you guys can piece what he's saying together, go ahead and give a shout out in the comments section. So again, that's pretty interesting what he said. So let me move on and play a few other, or look through Twitter, a few more things in Twitter. Yeah, and this unfortunately was the incident. Dave Portnoy. I don't care what side of the aisle you are on, you cannot have a guy who just consistently falls over in this type of manner as president. He exudes weakness. It's primal. And here it is. Let me pause it and I will go back to the beginning, give you some sound, and off you go. Um, yeah. Well, what are we supposed to think at that point? I mean, yeah. I mean, I was kind of shocked to see that myself. It's troubling. It's worrisome to say the least. But let me just take a look at a few more things on Twitter. I'd like to know your thoughts on all of this. But let's see what else was happening on Twitter. Just a few more things. So we had well, crisis actors needed. So pay attention now. We know what happens when these things come out. Crisis actors needed. So, okay, pay attention. Somebody sent me that. Dan Collins, a really, really great, brilliant guy. I hope you have a chance to look at his work and follow him. Why gas prices are so high and only going up. And he's talking about refineries. The last really heavy refinery with significant downstream unit capacity was built in 1977. Okay, that should say something. 1977. Um, yes, it's part of the reason where the U.S. I mean, I don't know what else to say. We've sometimes you got to find that balance between living in an environment. You have to find that balance. You can't really just choose one or the other. So it's really all about balance here. A few other things. Tavi Costa. Meanwhile, China continues to dump U.S. treasuries. Their holdings just reached new decade lows. So they aren't hanging out to treasuries. They aren't really buying them much anymore. Brandon Weichert, U.S. playing catch up seems to be our pastime these days. Sad. It is. It is. U.S. Department of Defense has signed a $120 million deal with Australia's Lynas Rare Earths to build one of the first U.S. domestic heavy rare earths separation facilities, part of Washington's push to counter China's dominance of critical mineral supply chains. I mean, it's good that they're getting in the game, but I just hope it's not too little, too late. You never want to see any one country dominate too much in any one thing. I mean, that's just true no matter what country it is. And this here is what kind of sparked me to do this live stream because of this what Judy Shelton had to say. So I'll play this for you. Let me go ahead and pause it and get the sound on for you. And then what she said was pretty interesting here. So hang in there, a couple minutes.
It just seems that it doesn't make a lot of sense that if you're worried about things costing too much, that you raise the cost of doing things. Inflation is already, it slows growth. It could be recessionary. And then you combine inflation with higher interest rates, and a lot of the same people that are dealing with the higher inflation are now they want to expand or increase production. Now they're dealing with high, it just doesn't seem to make sense. And it all.
Oh, what happened there? Hang on. Let me get that back on for you. Hang on, guys. Let me bring this back. Okay, let's try again.
A lot of sense that if you're worried about things costing too much, that you raise the cost of doing things. Inflation is already, it slows growth. It could be recessionary. And then you combine inflation with higher interest rates, and a lot of the same people that are dealing with the higher inflation are now they want to expand or increase production. Now they're dealing with high, it just doesn't seem to make sense. And it all comes back, Judy, it all comes back to your notion that the Fed is too intertwined with the real economy at this point. And it's happened over a period of years, and it's happened slow. What do they say? Gradually and then suddenly. And there needs to be some rule-based accounting when we finally get out of this. Is inflation worse than a recession, Judy? Because it must be. If we're willing to bring on a sharp slowdown in GDP and a rise in unemployment, inflation must even be worse. It must be the lesser of two evils. Or
well, I
the
think
recession is.
This is the problem in the thinking. That's a false trade-off. I think we could see recession as well as inflation, because if raising interest rates is the only thing the Fed can do, and that is not resolving the real problem, which is not sufficient supply for the pent-up demand, then you're just punishing the economy for no reason. And what is worse is there's two kinds of money now. There's money used in the real economy, and then there's the speculative, the play money. And when we see what the European Central Bank is doing, it's my fear is 25 basis points does matter in that world, because you have hundreds of trillions of derivative instruments that are geared to these tiny changes in interest rates. And that is where you could start to see things come undone. And then, of course, as in 2008, a global financial crisis ultimately punishes Main Street.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get out of Twitter here. So that was a look at Twitter. And now what she had to say was pretty interesting, because can you get inflation in a recession? That, I mean, kind of makes you wonder. You had the host there saying it doesn't make sense. A lot of things don't make sense anymore, and that was what led me to the topic of the day, where again, we just had the 75 basis point rate hike, largest rate hike in decades, and again, with what Judy Shelton just said, can we have inflation and a recession at the same time? Kind of makes you wonder. The Fed is raising rates, though. We all know this. Why? Two general reasons. Inflation is here. Inflation is here. They're trying to control it. And a recession is looming, despite what Janet Yellen may have said. Well, she did say there's a possibility, but she doesn't really see it. Recession is looming. Now, point one, the inflation. Raising rates slows the economy and, in theory, cools off the economy and brings inflation under control. So that's what they're trying to do. Point two, also having elevated rates offers the Fed runway to lower rates in a recession to stimulate the economy. In other words, make a U turn. Historically, the Fed needs to lower rates some 5% or so to bounce back from a recession. So, which is it? Is the Fed raising rates to cool down the economy and bring prices back under control, the one mandate of price stability? Or is the Fed trying to build a runway as quickly as it can to simply lower rates again, make that U turn? The thing is, didn't we just come off from a decade long low to no interest rate environment? We were coming off there, right? I mean, what, we're going to have to make a U turn again? So at this point, you really have to wonder if the Fed, if they've gone mad, which is what the host said. None of it makes sense, as he was talking to Judy Shelton, and she even says, she has her concerns with this. Now, were they just telling us for a decade that they were trying to get a 2% target inflation? They printed way too much money, one cause of inflation, and for a decade of printing money to see where the economy would bite. They were hoping it would bite and get traction and get that velocity of money that just never happened. Well, kind of never happened. It did happen on Wall Street, where equities had the run of its life with new highs almost every week, but it didn't really happen on Main Street. We never really saw it on Main Street. And this is interesting, because this was something that Dan Collins had talked about, where the US didn't see inflation on things that were coming in, let's say from China. Your shirts were still low. Your things at Walmart were still low. But if it were anything that was made in the U.S., you saw the price rise. Whether it was tuition, you saw that rise. It was healthcare, you saw that rise. So things on the U.S. side, they rose. Main Street saw that inflation, but things coming in from Asia, the Asian side, on the supply side, you didn't really see them rise. You didn't really see it rise. So Main Street didn't really feel that. So what Main Street got from all the money printing were a few handouts, although what Main Street really got that we're seeing today now is inflation. Pandemic or not, inflation was in the cards, while the government and the Fed were trying to, I'll just say, they were trying to bluff us a bit. They were trying to bluff us a bit. So you really got to ask this question.
You may not like the guys flying with you. They may not like you. Whose side are you on?
Absolutely. Whose side? Whose side is the Fed on? Okay, so what are the main causes to recession? And it came out with four generally accepted main reasons: an overheated economy, asset bubbles, black swan events, and employments. All right, so what are our thoughts so far? What are our thoughts so far? Let me run through the comments here. Um, you guys, you guys are cold, man. Looking at these comments. All right. Uh, okay, sorry about that. The comments, love them, love them. Let's see. Peter Froline, hyperinflation is already here. What next? Hyper inflation. We'll see. We'll see what happens with it. I mean, I know everybody's seeing higher prices. That's for sure. Let's see. Second horizon, housing deflates. That's going to be trouble for a lot of us. Food and energy inflate. We're seeing that. Wages stagnate. I agree with just about everything you said there. Let's see. They've been pushing down price and accumulating PMs while pushing stock market. You know what? That is true. I mean, central banks. I think we all know they have been buying up gold and holding them in reserves for the past decade. Like probably, I believe, no other time in history. They were really, really buying up gold. And at the same time, we had all our financial news networks telling us, go into the markets, go into the markets. Well, I mean, I guess if you went into the market, maybe you made a bit because the Fed was backstopping everything. But the thing is, we should also look at the flip side, be a bit of a contrarian, and understand that this can't go on forever. Inflation will one day take over, and we should look at things like gold, look at things like silver. After all, that's what the central banks did. So great comment there. So these four things: overheated economy, asset bubbles, black swan events, and employment, generally accepted as causes to a recession. Overheated economy, the demand side grows faster than the supply side. And we're seeing that mainly because we have too much money. They printed too much money. So that is causing the demand side. It's not natural. Okay, the demand side is growing faster than the supply side. Too much money chasing too few goods. It's exactly what's happening. The Fed raises rates, which is what they're doing. Spending slows, which is what they're trying to get us to do. They don't want you and I to spend too much. They don't want you and I to be able to take out loans as easily as we did. They want the economy to cool off. They want it to slow down because too much of a heated economy is going to cause a recession. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts. And I'll take a look at asset bubbles. Asset prices, equities, home prices eventually exceed the fundamentals. Exceeded the fundamentals. And I think what kind of pushed up things, in regards to home prices, we saw when companies were getting in trouble. We saw when companies were getting in trouble, and the Fed went ahead and gave them liquidity, gave them liquidity. Uncle Jerome gave money to companies. And what did they do? They went ahead and bought up residential America by the zip code. They went and bought up real estate by the zip code. And eventually, these guys are going to be your landlord. So again, these things were not natural. Okay, assets will correct. They're going to have to correct because these things were not natural, and people are not as wealthy as they thought they were. Took out a loan, went and bought a house. I mean, I hope and pray it all goes well for you. You could handle the mortgage, which is why you went and got the house. But now everything else around you, your food, your fuel, other things are starting to go up. So now what you could handle in a mortgage is starting to get a little bit more hard to manage. So again, all because of these things that just were not natural. Home prices, they're eventually going to fall. Equities fall, markets fall. We're kind of seeing the latter two. And those who took on debt to buy assets such as homes, I mean, really, I pray for you guys. I hope none of you go underwater, but I know it's going to be tough because everything else around you is going up. And as I said, maybe that mortgage wasn't so tough in the beginning. You could do it, but then inflation kind of crept up. I know it's stuff out there. And people cut back on spending, and enough of it will cause a recession. So, again, chances are we're only going to buy the necessities. We're not going to buy all these other things anymore. Economy is going to slow down, and it really may cause that recession that Janet Yellen doesn't see. With black swan events, of course, we have the pandemic, we have wars. The Fed cannot manage these things. They cannot control it. What did the pandemic do to money creation? It went wild. We saw equities go wild, stimulus and supply shocks. How is the war in Ukraine in part now causing food and energy prices to go up? Well, we put sanctions on them. The US put sanctions on them, essentially taking away supply. The demand is still there. It's probably more than ever, but it basically took away supply, and that's going to push up prices. These both are in part what caused inflation or causing inflation and is causing the Fed to react. If it overreacts, we're going to have that recession. So, again, things to keep in mind here. And then employment. Higher wages, they attract higher employment, right? I mean, if a job is paying well, it may attract you to go ahead and take that job. Higher employment with higher wages pushes up prices. You took that job with the higher pay. More people are in the workforce with higher pay. They go ahead and buy things, and that starts to push up prices on things. Okay, more money chasing goods. It's going to push up the prices on things. And higher prices means a demand for higher wages to keep and attract employees. So that's the thing. When, let's say, you take on that higher paying job, a lot of people take on a higher paying job, they start pushing prices up because, again, more money chasing these goods. So the goods go up. And then what happens? You need an even higher paying job. So then that turns around, pushes wages up. Wages go up, pushes prices up. Prices go up, it's going to push wages up. So this, I mean, it's a cycle. It's going to keep happening over and over and over. So this is where the Fed mandate of maximum employment is met. All right, it's met. And the Fed mandate of price stability kicks in. Okay, so everybody's at working, prices went up, Fed kicks in, price stability. They raise interest rates, cool the economy off, cost of business goes up, and business, they lay off employees, velocity of money slows, a recession ensues. So it's really a cycle. It's a game they play, the money game, which is why it's going to be good that we have Chris Galizio on to go ahead and talk to him about these things. And here's where the Fed's dual mandate of maximum employment and price stability shows the Fed's true colors. Remember, whose side are you on? You can work and be successful in spurts, If you get too successful and have or spend too much money, you might be the cause of inflation. It's your fault. You might be the cause of inflation. The Fed is then going to throttle the economy, raise rates, and your well in some cases goes dry. If your well goes dry or trickles, inflation subsides in theory, and then the Fed lowers rates. Businesses take on debt for growth, and they eventually look to hire you and start the tap and flow of water into your well again. So, what are your thoughts on this? I thought this live stream we keep it home, just between us here. What are your thoughts on this? Let me go ahead and take a look at some of the comments here. Um, let's see. Um, Stagflation. Okay, I see this. The below zero rates. Yes. Yeah. CBDC. I refuse. 100% refuse from Peter Frowine. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to look for comments out here that I can put up. Um, Yeah, Rod, exactly here. If rates keep rising, watch all the zombie companies that were continually buying all their own stock rather than investing in the future and improving their practices with the cheap debt all crumbled. That's interesting comment because zombie companies they really should have I mean it's tough to say, but they really kind of should have been left to fall apart. I mean, I think some of us remember Hertz, the car rental company in the U.S. Remember Hertz going bankrupt. I believe Hertz went bankrupt, and then next thing you know, they're well into the money again. So how did they go from filing for bankruptcy to being well into the money again? Fed backstopped them. Fed kind of bailed them out. So again, we saw a time where the Fed was picking and choosing winners, and it's you got to wonder whose side is the Fed on again. So let me move on here. The reality the Fed is raising rates to both cool off the economy and to give itself runway to turn around and lower rates should the economy cool down too much and goes into a recession. This is why that host, when he was talking to Judy Shelton, said, which is the lesser of two evils? Which is the lesser of two evils, the inflation or the recession? To cool off the economy, people are going to, sad to say, you may lose your job. So spending slows. People lose their jobs. How do they pay their mortgages and rent? Spending slows to just necessities. The point, the economy slows, low to no growth. Another reality is supply shock. If the economy slows, yet we still have supply shock, meaning less than normal goods available, inflation is going to persist. And this is something the Fed cannot control. We've talked about before. They can try and pull back liquidity as much as they want, try and make loans hard to get as much as they want. But the thing is, it still does nothing for real services, that supply shock. So, all they're going to do is end up hurting the people, which is what Judy Shelton said. So she has absolutely a great point there. We very well may be going into a period where an inflationary environment will exist in a recessionary environment. High prices in a low to no growth period where the supply side remains choked. Stagflation, dragflation, whatever you want to call it. It's not good. And on top of this, a time where unemployment may again uh, start to creep up. So these are the realities of some things. So, how do we get out of a stagflationary environment? What do governments do in a recession? They have loose monetary policy. Okay, they have loose monetary policy. What do governments do during inflation? They tighten up. They tighten up monetary policy. So in a stagflationary environment, you cannot do both. You just cannot do both. All right. So what are your thoughts on this? And then we'll move on a bit. Let's see. Um, hang on here. Patrick Bateman, yes, Iceman. Let's see. Um, housing bubble to pop. Housing bubble to pop after midterms. That's what you're. Excuse me. That's what you're guessing for now. I mean, I guess we can go back to it. It's the economy, stupid. So you want to make sure that the midterms are all good and well, and then who knows? Who knows what happens after that? All right. So your guess is as good as anyone else's. Um, let's see. Belly dance. Rabia, butter is 5.50 and eggs above $4. What were they before? Just curious. What were the prices on those before? Let's see what else is out here. Um, okay. All right. Just running through the comments real quick. Yeah, 495 again. That exactly. BlackRock is buying multi-billions in residential real estate. The name says it all. Again, this is something, these companies, they all got bailouts essentially, or they all were given money, cheap money. And a few of them turned around and started buying up by the zip code, buying up residential units by the zip code. This was a live stream that we touched on months ago. So again, whose side are you on? Really, I mean, who's on our side? I mean, I've been told by past guests that there's not a good guy anymore out there. There's no good government or central bank, or there's no good guys. So I mean, really, whose side are they on? All right, let's see what else is out there. Um, yeah, land. I guess you could say that land protection, tools, seeds, medicines, good neighbors. All that's going to be important for sure. And then for a lot of you, your situation might also incorporate the concept of maybe diversification, where if you have everything at home squared away, then it may be good to move some of your soldiers strategically to a different location, so it can also help you out also from a different location. Should your home base be a little bit tough to manage? So again, diversification, it is something that I think we all should take a look at. Excuse me. And as I mentioned, we really need options, and that gives us options. So let me move on. As I would see it, and Judy Shelton kind of touched on it, you forget monetary policy. Just throw it away in the dumpster at this point. Just throw it away. Get rid of it. Just get rid of it. What you need to do is crank up the supply side. If you bring up supplies, it brings down the cost and makes it more affordable, chipping away at inflation. if you chip away at inflation and people spend at more normal levels, money moves back. It'll move back into the system and growth can begin once again without without the cheap money driving it. The catch, a country like the US does not manufacture much anymore. It imports. Who is the world's manufacturer that can help a country in stagflation to get out of it? I'll give you guys one guess. Which country is the world's manufacturer? And that, of course, is China. If China produces, supply side comes back on. Now, one reason we did not see inflation for a decade, going back to 2008, was because China had their motor running, supplying the world. So through 2008 and beyond, with all that QE, China's motor was still hard at work running. So as I just touched on, things coming in from China, we did not see the inflation on that end. Our shirts or things at Walmart stayed relatively low. Electronics, things on the US half or the West half of the world made there or services there, those went up. That's where you saw the inflation. So the thing is, supply always met or exceeded demand, giving us low prices. But China, along with Japan, were buying US debt, helping keep the country fiscally going. Today, this just isn't the case. It just is not the case anymore. In short, how do you ask China to crank up their factories, fuel their ships, and send over their goods? How do you ask them to do that in the current environment we are in today? You can't. On top of that, the dollar is strengthening. The US would be asking China to take their strong dollar, which purchases more of their real goods. China, on the other hand, can simply let their own economy consume the goods they produce. They have a large, economically healthy middle class and a network of nations who have become more fiscally responsible and are also looking to get away from the US dollar. If we cannot get the supply side up, how do we come out of stagflation should we go into it? So that's going to wrap up the topic of the day. Just wanted to, really just lay out some thoughts here and see what you had to say. Let me look at the comments here. Um, let's see. Vincent, Matt Bittner, layoffs, yes, but more so when mortgage rates go into unserviceable territory. Yeah, absolutely. And again, the sad thing about that, part of it why mortgages may go into unserviceable rates is because of everything else around you that has gone up. So again, you took on that loan fully comfortable with paying it, that mortgage, but then everything else around you started to go up. And that's a really tough situation there. Thanks, Vincent. Appreciate that. Let's see what else is out there. Yeah, this is true too. Uh, America can't afford high interest on our national debt. That is true, and that goes for other nations as well who have U.S. denominated debt. So all over the world, as mentioned, as Mark Valek said, inflation is an international thing right now. It's happening all over the world. Let's see what else is out here. Um, yeah, Mr. Nguyen, yes, higher wages are susceptible to layoffs. Absolutely. That is one thing because as mentioned, you get higher wages, you go out and spend. And you should. You worked hard for that money, go out and enjoy. When a lot of other people are out there enjoying as well with higher wages, they start to push up prices. So the prices start to get bid up and then you're gonna go in and need a raise, or you're gonna need a higher wage to keep up with the higher prices. So again, it's just this game that goes on, pushing up prices, and then the Fed has to step in and okay, well we're gonna raise interest rates here. We're gonna start to make it a little bit more difficult, cool the economy off. So eventually, yeah, it will have to turn around. So that's a great point there. Let's see what else is out there. Um, let's see. Yeah, 495. BlackRock and Kin know they are playing with worthless paper money. They don't care if housing prices crash. The goal is to have total control over the plebs. Everyone will rent from them. I hope it doesn't get to that, but the path has already been laid out. Let's see what else is out there. Um, okay. Okay. All right. So let me move on here. I'll move over to commentary. Whoa, okay, hang on. Sorry about that. I got something mixed up here. Let's see. I'll just take a look at one or two more comments and then get into commentary. Um, okay, hang on. Yeah, pick up dry beans, dried fruits, powdered milk. I think these things, yeah, it could be powdered milk, powdered eggs, things like that. I think we're up to what 1920. Some food processing plants and things like that have gone down somehow, mysteriously, kind of went down. Um, so you really got to take heed of what's going on, and on top of that, then you have wheat, fertilizer, things like that, getting caught up in the war. So the food's food, the food's food, is going to be less and less. So gotta watch these things. Anyway, let me move on to commentary here. We're doomed. No, we're not. Just kidding. Okay, no. Sorry, we're not doomed. We're not doomed. Okay, look around you though. You're seeing prices going up. You might be seeing less goods and products. You probably are seeing businesses closing. And all these things, there will be opportunities. Okay, hang in there. There are going to be opportunities. In short, one thing you have to be besides resilient is positive. So don't tell everyone we're doomed, all right? Be positive. And we have to be our own bank. You got to have money in all forms. I know there's a certain definition of money, but for generally speaking, money, be it cash, junk silver, gold, crypto, a gold backed token, or something that makes your gold and silver transportable, something that makes it move. Okay, and I showed you guys last week. I tried to show you last week. Junk silver. I think it's one of the first things people will recognize as money because a lot of us knew what it was. And then things like silver, gold, perhaps some crypto. Crypto has been taking a beating, but I think Bitcoin has bounced back some. And then a gold backed token. Again, that's just to be able to use your gold, uh, have more reach with your gold. Because if you're not in arm's reach, very, very tough to barter, right? So you wanna be able to reach further than just your arm's reach. Diversify the types of money you have and the locations your money or monetary assets are in. This is important also. If you do that, you're giving yourself the opportunity to meet opportunities ahead. That's what it's about. You want to be able to give yourself the opportunity to meet the opportunities that are coming ahead. But just want to throw this out here, and I know I put this in the community group where I think 85% of you had said that inflation comes first and then recession. But I'm going to throw out this curveball. What if I said we were already in a recession? And I'm talking about 2008. We were already in a recession that the Fed threw money into. And instead of getting out of the recession, it created the inflation in an already existing recession. I want to throw that out to you. Have a think about it. I've been asking our guests this question also. Have we ever truly recovered from 2008? A lot of them say no. Then, if we never truly recovered and the Fed printed all that money, I'm going to say we were already in a recession that the Fed created the inflation, which may end up in the stagflation. So, just want to throw this out there to you folks. Anyway, I do believe that will wrap up this live stream. I appreciate you guys all being here, guys and gals. And no, we are not doomed. There are things we can do. Take a look at a few comments before we head out here. Let's see, what is it now? 30? Is it 30 plants destroyed now in the US? I didn't know it was up to 30 now. Okay, that's man. Okay. Peter Frolwine, is this the Titanic? Well, it's at least the iceberg, that's for sure. Let's see. Misspelled doomed. The D is capitalized. All right, I'll get back with my second grade teacher and ask her about that. All right, my fault there. Let's see what else is out there. 10,000 cattle died in Kansas. Really? Seriously? I didn't come across this. Okay. Uh, let's see. Really? When I said doomed, the ratings went up? All right. Okay. Be sure to pass on that thumbs up for saying doomed. I don't know. It's sometimes you just really gotta laugh it off, right? I mean, what can you do besides do the things you need to do and then just kind of laugh it off as best as you can. 495 and love my junk silver. I tell you what, it's a good thing. It's the only form of the world's reserve currency that is actually still silver, if you really think about it. Okay, okay, the cattle deal died due to heat. Okay, well, I hope we all are doing what we need to do. Um, Especially when it comes to being a blessing and not a burden. I mean, if we know what's coming down, we got to try our best to do what we can for ourselves, our family, and friends, because a lot of people are going to be hurting. Talk to people. It may be difficult to do sometimes, but talk to them. Um, Send us an email if you need to, discuss something. Again, if it's especially with wealth protection, systemic wealth protection, or just what's on your mind, go ahead and send us an email, sbtv@silverbullion.com.sg. And above all, guys, I say, we're in the same boat together. I think I might have to backtrack because I saw one guy say, we're all in the same storm together. It's just that some of us have a canoe, me, some of us have a canoe, some of us have a yacht, but we're in this storm together. Um, we'll get through it together. So let's all take care of each other, saddle up for what's coming ahead, and silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week. Take care and thanks for joining us.